Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel's Making with Marilyn. Now recently I have published a few videos on this Sublimation DTF hack. Now I made a full shirt. It turned out gorgeous. I did a wash test on it, washed and dried it twice. It came out gorgeous. Here's just a small sample I started with. So this is using a sublimation printer, printing on DTF film, adding DTF powder to it, curing it, and then pressing it on something. So this one turned out great. This one turned out great. But then I also had a couple of fails. Now I've seen some YouTubers using regular inkjet ink and having great success. It worked, it's just my colors didn't turn out too well. So if you compare that to the sublimation ink, you can see there's a big difference. So like I said, for some people, regular inkjet printer works fine. For me, it just doesn't. So that was one fail. And then somebody asked me if you could do this on burlap. And again, I tried it, but with the big holes in there, it was a fail. It wanted to attach, but with the big holes, it just wasn't attaching consistently. So my last request was, can you do this with a Cricut Easy Press? So that's what I'm going to try today. So I'm going to use this Sublimation DTF transfer film. They sent this to me to try. And then I'm going to use the Sublimation DTF powder. And this is the fine powder. I've used the fine and the regular. They both worked fine. But I did slightly prefer the fine powder. So that's what I'm going to use. And so the first thing I need to do is print my image. Now here's what I found to be successful for me. Have a regular piece of printer paper. And then when you take this out, it's important that you know which side is the print side. So I'm going to pull a piece straight out of here and then lay it down on my printer paper. Now this film isn't quite 8.5 by 11. It's something like 8.3 by 11.7, something like that. I'm going to have a link to this so you can see the exact measurements. But it doesn't line up exactly with your 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So you do have to take that into consideration when you're doing these. Now they also make the large DTF film, and I have some of that too, so I'll be trying that soon. But what I do is I center the film on my paper, and then I leave just a little bit of excess paper at the top. Hopefully you can see that. It's just a small amount, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Then I take regular Scotch tape and I tape it at the top, in the middle, and each side. And then after I do that, what I was finding was the printer was trying to pull these through and this film was slipping away from the paper and it was getting bunched up. So then I also put one little piece on each side. All right, so I just need to pull this up and then fold each of these pieces of tape back around the paper. Now some people have used painter's tape just on the film and had success. Other people have had other ways that they found success. This is just what's worked for me. I've tried a few different things. This is what works. So I'm going to go ahead and print out my image. Then I'll come right back and we'll add the DTF powder. All right, so I had another print out with it, but that's for another video. So I went ahead and cut that part off. Now the first thing I want to do is I just want to put some of this powder all over my image. Oops. If you want to, you can start at one end and work your way to the other end. Now this is the fine powder, and they did forewarn me that one of the issues with it is it clumps easily. So they said keep it airtight. And I have it in a container I got from the Dollar Tree. that I thought was airtight, but maybe it's not. So at some point, I'll go in and I'll break up all those clumps, and I think it'll be fine. All right, so I'm just going back and forth. Since I have so many clumps, I'm doing it several times. And then I'm going to put this on my paper and just tap off the excess. So the next step is going to be curing this. And we're going to cure it and press it with the Easy Press. Now this powder can be used over and over, or the excess powder can. So I'm just going to fold this up and dump this right back into the container. And my guess is this isn't really airtight. Now to cure this, I want this at 385. And then I'm going to go for a time of 45 seconds. I'll check it after that. If it's not ready, I'll put it back under. So we're going to give this just a couple of minutes to get up to temperature, and then I'll show you my idea on how to make this work. All right, so apparently I set that to 390. Let me back that down. There we go. All right, so this is foam you can use with heat. I'm putting that down just really to protect my table. And then here's my image, and I'm going to go ahead and put these pieces of wood beside it so that I don't have to stand there and hold my Easy Press for 45 seconds. All right, let's just look and see. It is nowhere near ready. I'm going to go ahead and turn these on their sides so that the heat gets closer to the actual print. And then I'll do this for 45 more seconds. All right, let's see what we have now. And it is not ready. I can tell it's starting to turn up there. So it may take a few times, but I think in the end it'll work out. Now, if I didn't say already, this is going to be for a little onesie for my great nephew, Daxton. And Daxton was just born in the last couple of weeks. And so on future videos, I'm going to do one putting the birth stats on the ear of this elephant. And then I'm going to do another where I sublimate on this Dollar Tree blanket. All right, you can tell that it's really starting to do something. Part of the frostiness of that powder is gone, especially up here, but we still have a lot to go. Now, if you're not familiar with this process, what I'm doing is similar to when you just hover your heat press over this. And if you watch my other videos, you'll see that's what I usually do. But since someone wanted to know if you can do it with this Cricut Easy Press, that's why I'm doing the whole process this way. Now, as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm wondering if the heat on my Easy Press maybe isn't even. So this time when I look at it, if the top is the only thing that's really ready, I'll go ahead and turn this. All right, so go ahead and turn it this way. All right, still not quite done, so I'll go ahead and turn it one more time. Hopefully this time it'll be ready. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, once you've cured this and your sublimation ink has activated, then you really start seeing those roller marks. So there's some there, there's some coming off this way, and so you do have to deal with those. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut right around this image, because that's going to cut quite a few of those off. So I'm going to get really close to it. All right, now that I've cut around it, I can separate the film from the paper. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape off the roller marks that you can still see. Because if you don't scrape these off, they're going to wind up on your shirt or your onesie or whatever you're making. Now you might see a little bit of the ink left over, but in theory, as long as you scrape that adhesive powder off, since I'm putting this on cotton, if there's a little bit of ink that you can still see, maybe it stained the film, in theory, that should not transfer. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on. Now, I want a really firm surface to press this on. I don't want just that Cricut Easy Press mat. I want something really firm, and this is super firm. These are meant for heat presses. You can buy extras of these off of Amazon. I ordered one recently. I think it was around $25, $23. And so I'll put a link to a pressing mat in the video description just in case you want that. And before I do this, I want to go ahead and remove any lint, at least that's in the way of where it'll get pressed. Now, even though I want a really firm base, I do want to raise this up a little bit because these seams are thicker than the baby onesie. So I'm going to put this little pressing pillow under it. Now, I haven't studied up on where exactly this should go, so I'm just going to wing it. And hopefully, yes, okay. I was worried the pressing pillow wasn't large enough, but it is. I think it needs to be moved over, but it is large enough. All right, what do you think? That look good? So on my heat press, I only press this, I think it's 15 more seconds. Let me look at the instructions. Oh, yes, and I need to turn my easy press down. So I'm going to turn it down to 325. And then for time, I'm just going to do it for 10 seconds. And it says under very firm pressure. So in that case, let's go for 12 seconds. All right, we'll let that temperature fall down to about 325, and then we're ready to press this on. Now, because I can feel some of the crystals on this side of the film, I'm going to go ahead and protect my heat press or my easy press by putting just a piece of paper down. And I think this was just printer paper. All right, that's down to 325. So let's go ahead and get this done. Now, I do want to put a ton of pressure on this. All right, so when I press that, I was pressing just as hard as I possibly could. Now, you're supposed to let this cool for 10 seconds. You can see that right here, and then you peel. All right, let's see Oh, it worked. It worked, it worked, it worked. And that feels really, really good. All right, so I always do a second press and I put parchment paper on. So just like in my other videos, I'll do that. Now I think in my first video, I accidentally used butcher paper instead of parchment paper. You don't want to do that. Now parchment paper, as long as nothing bleeds onto it, and it shouldn't in this case, you can reuse this, so don't throw this away. But we're going to do this for about 10 more seconds. And just like before, I put a ton of pressure on that. Okay, that is super hot, but it feels great. And it looks great. Let's stretch it out, do the old stretch test. That is so cute. All right, so I would say yes, you can do this process with an easy press. Is it as easy as when you're using a regular heat press? It's not. But if you don't have a heat press, try it out. I think baby Daxton is going to look so dashing in this. I love that. So thanks so much for joining me for the video, and until my next one, bye-bye.